Hello, I'm Hanny. Welcome to my Pandahomonium embroidery workshop. I'm going to show you how to make beads, sequins, all kinds of embellishments out of hopefully lots of things you can find at home. So what do you need to begin? If you find yourself some fabric, an embroidery hoop is good if you have one. Some scissors, a selection of needles for different size threads, some thread. So I've got some machine thread and also some stranded cottons, but anything that you can find really that will fit for a needle is fine to use. And then what have we got here? So I've raided the recycling box and I found lots of nice bright colourful bits of card, and also some plastic bottles are great as well. And then you may like to find some paints. I'm using acrylic paint, anything that's going to stick on the plastic, and also some Sharpies, and you can get them in really lovely vibrant colours as well, so I recommend those. And yeah, this workshop's suitable for all ages, but obviously with the younger kids, some supervision with needles and scissors is recommended. Right, let's get started. So I managed to find some scraps of this really lovely blue fabric around the house. So see what you've got lying around before you go and buy more things. In the past also I've used pillowcases, which work really well actually, and there's something quite satisfying about just making something new and creative with what you've already got. So I've put my fabric in this little hoop frame, which you don't have to use, but it will keep it taut and make it a bit easier for you to stitch with. And to start with, I've drawn myself, just in biro, a rainbow on the back there. And I'm now in the process using some nice pink thread of stitching that rainbow. So I've got a nice guide to follow when I start embellishing. So let me show you how I do that. I'm going to use stranded cottons, which you can buy from any good fabric shop or haberdashers. You can also use machine thread as well. That works just as well. But the great thing about using these is that there are 6 strands of thread at a time. So you have the option then of using as many or as little as you want. So I have gone on here for nice and bold. I'm using all the 6 strands at the same time. So let me show you how I do that. So I find the end and it just pulls out nicely. And I'm going to now measure from my fingertip to my elbow. And that gives me a really nice length. It means that it's nice and smooth to stitch with. I'm not going to poke anyone sitting near me in the eye, and it's not going to get tangled. So yeah, that's a top tip of mine, is don't have your thread too long, or you will find you're doing this and you're getting lots of knots, and it's not going to help you be a better stitcher. So I've got my length here, and as I say, if I wanted, I could peel those apart and I could stitch really fine with one thread, or I could, use any I want. I could even, I've got some different shades of pink here. If I wanted, I could use a few strands of each of these at the same time and make myself a multicolored thread. But for now, I'm going to stick with my 6 nice pink here, and to begin with I'm going to tie a knot in one end. So I take that and I'm going to wrap it around my finger, so I've got a nice loop. Then I take it off my finger and I take that end and it goes through the middle of my loop. like so, and then I just pull it and I'm left with a nice knot there. And then I've got a pack of sewing needles here, and just choose yourself one with a nice big eye so that you're not going to have difficulty getting that thread through. And if they're a little bit uneven, you can give them a snip with your scissors and it will make it easier to thread it. There we go. So I've got a knot in one end, needle in the other, and now I'm ready to go. So I want my knots to be on the back of the fabric. So this is my back. So I'm going to start on my next line of my rainbow, and I bring my needle from the back to the front. So see how that knot is keeping everything in place. It's not going to come undone. And then it's just a case of going back down and back again and keeping on going, following my design at the back so that I get that lovely rainbow outline. And as I stitch, you can see that I start to get that shape onto the front there. So now I've finished stitching on my nice rainbow. Quite pleased with that. So I've got a lovely outline I can follow now. So now we need to create some embellishments. And you could go to a shop and buy some nice sequins, but what if you saw what you could find at home? So what I did was I had a look in the recycling box. I asked my dad, who I'm living with at the moment, if he had any old magazines, and I found all these lovely different colours to work with. So I've got some nice orange, some pink, some green, some purple, and I can start to have some fun with this now. So I've just started to cut myself out some little triangles that I can use like sequins. I've used a machine thread here to make myself a nice circle. So yeah, get creative, find yourself lots of colours, lots of patterns. You know, you might like all the different patterns that you find on things, and just have a play. What shapes can you create? Have a look at your outline and make sure that you're making your sequins the right size so they can fit in those gaps. If you want them to, I mean, they can overlap as well. So I'm going to cut myself one more little pink sequin. And as you can tell, I've decided not to stick to conventional rainbow colours. I'm just going to go nice and bright and vibrant. But if you want to stick to a traditional rainbow, go ahead. Right, so I think I'm going to start with my I'll start with the bottom line here. So again, I'm going to grab myself some thread, and last time I used all 6 strands. Now I think I'm just going to use 2. So I'm going to go fingertip to elbow, cut that off, and then I'm just going to grab 2 of those 6 and pull them apart, and I can use that later as well. So then again, to tie my knot, I'm going around my finger, creating a loop, and then taking that end through the loop. Got myself a nice little knot there. And grab my needle again. I'm all threaded up and ready to go. Nice and secure. Hold that down in place. and I'm going to put my needle through. So I'm going up, over, through my triangle and back down. Can you see how that makes it nice and secure? So I can just really play with how I put my stitches down and the patterns that I can create. So if you can see that, each time I've tried to create different stitches and just, yeah, play with it really, see what's possible. So I'll do one last one here to show you. So here are some other ideas that I came up with. So it's brilliant really, just by using thread and card that I found in the recycling, how many different effects I can get for my sequins. And here's a different idea that you could try. So I've made myself a little circular pink sequin. I think I'm going to put that right in the middle of my rainbow there. And I'm going to bring my needle up in the centre of the sequin, like so, right to the edge, back down, and then I'm going to keep repeating that all the way round. From the outside to the centre each time. I'll show you one more. And I do that lots of times and I'm left with a lovely star. So my rainbow's starting to take shape now. I'm pretty happy with it. But I was thinking that so far, using my magazines and papers that I've found, I am limited by the colours that I can find. So I've got another idea. I've found in my recycling some pop bottles, given them a really good clean. Yeah, clear is best, but whatever you can find. And I've grabbed myself some acrylic paints. You could also use permanent pens like Sharpies, that would do it really well. And I've just painted some blue and some green to match my colour scheme on there, and let it dry for a couple of hours. And this is great because it then means I can make my own colours, which will add a lot of my personality to the piece. So when it's dry, you can see this shiny side here. So this is the side that I didn't paint on. And what I can now do is I've got a Sharpie, and I think I'm going to add some polka dots to it. Give it a little bit of character. So again, just use your imagination. What could you draw? What patterns? What shapes could you create? Have you got a particular theme you'd like to bring to your rainbow? As you can see, I've just drawn some nice dots on there, and then just like with the cardboard, I can start to cut that out. And instead of triangles this time, I think I'm going to cut myself some longer strips, like so. So to create this fun 3D effect, I've cut myself a strip of my painted plastic, and I've drawn some nice little Sharpie stripes on there. and I've done one stitch to secure it to the fabric before I start, just like with the card, but you'll find that you have to really push your needle through a lot harder than before. And then I put my needle through the other end and I move it so that that stitch is much shorter than the piece of plastic, and that will mean when I pull it through, you need a little bit more force, so you might want to ask a grown-up to help you. I pull it through, magically it will stand up like so. So for my final stripe of my rainbow, I wanted to bring some beads into the mix, and instead of just buying shop bought, I thought I'd try and make my own. And one way I thought we could do this is by using some tin foil. Rip yourself a little section, and if you want, you can use your Sharpies, and I'm going to draw some little hearts on it, like so. But add lots of colour, play with it, see what you can do with it. And I'm going to, I just need a small section of that, and I'm going to scrunch it into a ball. I've got myself a nice bead. And of course you can play with the size, you can play with the shape of those. You know, what can you create with it? So I'm going to bring my needle up onto the surface of the fabric like that. And I'm just going to push very carefully with my fingers out the way, push that bead onto the needle, pull that up through like so, and bring my needle and thread back down. I might put one more stitch in that side. And there we have some nice homemade beads. So here is my finished rainbow, complete with all kinds of different sequins, different stitch techniques. I've got my 3D ones here, I've got my nice star, our homemade beads, and some little shop bought ones there. As you can see, there are so many ways that you could play with this, and different touches you could add. So I really hope you've enjoyed it, and happy stitching.